all with irrigation.
And it makes sense because he was just speaking about organization. They just love to be organized, so that makes sense to putting people in place, you know?
Yeah, that's nice. Go pick from that tree.
Okay, you go man the fields.
Good.
What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchets React, and we're back with another video.
It's the Gambia, not Gambia, the Gambia. You gotta put a the before Gambia. And it's Gambia, not Zambia, not Gambit, not Getbia, as in Bob said, Getbia, Gambia.
Okay.
It's time to learn geography
now! Hey everyone, welcome to the Gambia. They actually deliberately chose to put the before Gambia to avoid confusion with Zambia, making it one of the only countries with a the in the shortened title. Wow, that was like the least witty opening I've ever made for a video. Okay, let's see. This place is so interesting, you'll be saying, Dambia!
Is that the first time you're using profane language on your show?
No, I meant dam as in a beaver dam.
Yeah. Okay.
14.
Oh, it's like it be popping.
Dude, half of this country's charm is found in its strangely drawn borders and territory marks. Not only is it the smallest country on mainland Africa, but it's also disputably the most oddly shaped. First of all, the Gambia is located on the furthest section of Western Africa off the Atlantic coast. Other than its 80-kilometer coastline on the Atlantic, the Gambia is completely surrounded by Senegal on all three sides and meanders inland following the Gambia River for about 320 kilometers. The country is divided into 8 local government areas, including the capital Banjul, which is classified as a city area, located on a small island just at the mouth of the river. The largest city just next door to Banjul, though, is Serekunda, and the entire country has one international airport, Banjul Yundum International, which, by the way, has a bunch of weird airlines that I never heard of that fly to it, like the UK's Thomas Cook Airlines and Lithuania's Small Planet Airlines. Whoa. Off the coast, the furthest plots of land that lay claim to the Gambia are the Bijol Islands. The Gambia is often referred to as the smiling coast of Africa due to the fact that not only are the beaches amazing, but if you look at the map, it kind of looks like Senegal is a deformed Pac-Man looking type of thing, and the Gambia is a cheeky, sultry Elvis curled lip grin smile. Otherwise, the country in itself looks like a snake with a horrible underbite. Now, you might be thinking, okay, why does this country even exist? Like, it's so small, wouldn't it be easier if they just joined Senegal and became one country? Well, that's a very observant but horrible conclusion. Now, you have to understand that in Africa, every stretch of territorial sovereignty claim matters, even if you can just take a morning stroll across one side of the country to the other. The reason why the Gambia is shaped like this is partially because of European colonialism and partially because of complacency. Senegal used to belong to the French Empire and the Gambia used to belong to the British. Essentially, they drew the borders to follow the Gambia River with 2 straight lines jutting inland from the coast between 13 degrees 9 minutes and 13 degrees 30 minutes north. However, they made a deal and said that the Gambia could have all the land that flowed west of the Halahin Balong River in the south. This did, however, transect a portion of the Janak Peninsula, which is shared by both countries. Somewhere along the halfway point, they decided that the straight lines would stop and that the country would be allotted somewhere between 9 to 12-ish kilometers in every direction around the river on each side inland for about 320 kilometers. That's not a lot. I mean, area-wise.
So, really, how does that work?
Right.
Well, just a river. Like, are there any homes that's just along the river?
Seems that way.
Yeah, would it be like a park or something?
That's something we have to dive into.
Yeah,
I hope he does
videos.
that, like, whenever he goes deep into it, it shows more about it, into the Gambia, right? But yeah, it's interesting, though.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to look at videos of that.
Yeah, this is a different one.
Yeah, very different.
The entire country is only about the size of Jamaica. So essentially, the country is kind of like a river that masquerades as a country. The most important route, though, would have to be the north and south bank roads. You can literally traverse the entire country on this loop road that starts west at Bara and then crosses the river at Fatoto and then heads all the way back to Banjul. Keep in mind, though, most borders aren't even really marked that well or at all. Most checkpoints between them and Senegal only appear on major roadways. Otherwise, you can totally cross into Senegal from virtually any open field along the way. A few notable sites would include the Senegambian stone circles, the world's largest concentration of stone circles and a UNESCO heritage site. Every visitor would go to the Arch 22 where you can get a nice panorama city view. If you have time, check out Kunta Kinte or Fort James Island that has a somewhat austere backstory and was kind of...
Okay, before he continue
My first time hearing this.
Yeah, so ever since, I read the book. Because I feel like the movie... It's like leave the little notes at the bottom, but everybody don't pay attention to that.
Right.
But I read the book and it said present day the Gambia, and so ever since then I wanted to. Although I'm not even like connected to Kunta Kinte, like that was the American story
Yeah.
that we all saw growing up and show our children. So I wanted to see this.
Yeah, that's what's up. I don't think this is where the village was, where his family was, right? I don't think it was in the Gambia.
Maybe no, it was the
It
Gambia.
wasn't in the Gambia.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
okay.
where he's from. The
Now,
Gambia.
yeah, so that makes sense. But
Yeah.
this is our first time getting more in depth about it right here.
Of technically part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth at one point.
Yes, we made it to Africa that one time!
And that's the thing. In a lot of places in Africa, current borders don't really have much of a significance, but rather people tend to look at the tribal areas instead. And if that was the case, Africa would probably look more like this. Nonetheless, they still keep their country intact, and it all has to do with that one lifeline that connects them all, the Gambia River. Well, to no surprise, Gambia's land makeup pretty much comprises of whatever surrounds the Gambia River. This means that the majority of the land is a flat, grassy floodplain with
that's
mangroves
how it
closer
looks,
to the coastline. In fact, about 10% of the entire land area is made up of water alone, and the highest point isn't even named. It's just a random hill that goes up 53 meters. Because of its limited space, the Gambia has had to develop a really creative cultivation plan over the past few decades. About 60% of the land area is of good arable quality, of which 40% is used for farming. About 80% of the population lives off of subsistence farming, mostly in rural areas, contributing to about a third of the GDP and 70% of the country's foreign exchange earnings. This means that organization is key. The Gambia has a very complex yet structured format in allocating crop fields. You have compounds, dadabas, mauros, kamayangos, and sinkiros that are administrated by a nakalo. There's also a kind of unspoken custom. Women are in charge of field and garden crops, whereas men are in charge of tree crops. And the river supplies them all with irrigation.
And it makes sense because he was just speaking about organization. They just love to be organized, so that makes sense to putting people in place,
Yeah, that's nice. Go pick from that tree.
Okay, you go in the fields.
Good.
Two food sources that the country thrives off of course, seafood and peanuts. The Gambia River supplies them with an abundance of fish species like the cassava fish, pampanos, barracuda, butterfish, grouper, snapper, and of course everyone loves the Gambia River oysters. Peanuts are used as a staple in so many dishes like mafe stew and domoda. The country enjoys a relatively warm climate with a rainy season, especially along the coast. However, the further east you travel, the drier and arid the landscape becomes until you reach the savanna upper inland. Since the whole country is situated around the river, this means that a huge portion of the land is comprised of wetlands and swamps, although sometimes hard to cultivate, are perfect for harboring rich biodiversity. Animals like river birds, hippos, aardvarks, geckos, crocodiles, bush pigs, warthogs can be found, and even bottlenose dolphins playing in the mouth of the river. Speaking of which, the lion is the official animal of the country as it's found on the coat of arms. Notable nature zones include the River Gambia National Park, heavily concentrated with wildlife, the Abuku Nature Reserve with monkeys, and check out the reptile farm in Kartong. Now let's get a little crazier and talk about who's running the show called The Gambia, shall we? Okay, this is the part where the episode is going to get a little funny. And by that I mean when we discuss politics. First of all, the Gambia has about 2 million people and is one of the least militarized countries in the world. The country is made up of a few main ethnic groups, the largest one being the Mandika at over 40%, the Fula at around 20%, the Wolof at around 16%, the Jola at 10%, and the rest is a conglomeration of other Africans like the Serahuli and other non-Africans.
Also, they use the Gambian Dalasi as their currency, they use the Type G outlet, and they drive on the right side of the road.
The largest ethnic group, the Mandika, have lived in the area for centuries, and they are the descendants of the Mali kingdom that stretched all across West Africa and had one of the richest kings in history. The earliest recordings have shown that the Gambia was subject to various African kingdoms as well, such as the Foni, Kombo, Sine, Salum, and the Fulado. Around 90% of the country is Sunni Muslim and the remaining 10% is Christian. Islam in the Gambia follows the Maliki school of jurisprudence, the system predominantly used in North and West African countries. It's interesting though, because kind of like the Comoros, even though the country is predominantly Muslim, Gambian women have incredibly loose clothing customs and statutes. Most women don't even wear the hijab, let alone abayas, but rather the typical pattern cloth dresses with exposed arms and necklines. The official language is English, as the country for a while was a colony under the British Empire until independence in 1965. However, Mandinka, Wolof, Fula, and Jola are spoken as a first language to the majority of the population. It's not uncommon to hear people speaking French as a third language though, due to their close proximity to Senegal and relative isolation from the nearest English-speaking country, Sierra Leone, at around 700 kilometers away. Music is huge out here. Disputably, the Wolof people have the best drummers. When listening, you'll be like, yeah, that's my Gambia. Of course, you can't miss out on a Mandinka Kankurang Machete dance, which looks really cool. To address the illiteracy levels, they instead...
What's the machete dance? Why y'all ain't tell us nothing about that?
Nah, they got a machete in their hand for real though.
Oh,
you didn't
I
see
didn't
it?
see that part.
Yo, he
I just
literally had
thought it
like
was
a
like
big
a
machete in
chicken.
his
The Wolof
hand.
people have the best
Wow, check 'em
drummers.
out.
When listening, you'll be like, yeah, that's my Gambia. Of course, you can't miss out on a Mandinka
Oh, that's what
Kankurang.
that was.
Yo, so that's like a real machete in his hand. This is very long. You feel me? So,
Oh, my Lord.
yeah, but more details about that in the comic section. I know it's spiritual. I know you have meaning behind it,
Yeah.
right? I'm digging the colors, the brightness about it. You know,
Is this
but
something I gotta run from again? You know, I'll be running.
you have me moving too, cause
I'm
Lord,
gonna be dragging you. Don't worry. We going together.
oh god.
Machete dance, which looks really cool. To address the illiteracy levels, they instead use a clear glass marble system in which the voter drops a marble in a steel drum to indicate the candidate that they want to choose. The Gambia has a strange
Heard
political
of that.
system. Technically, right now, there's a lot of drama between the outgoing president and the new one, this guy, who just won in 2016. I'm pretty sure this is the right picture of the guy. I know I've gotten a
It's
few
probably-
notable pictures wrong in the past. Let's never speak
Somebody
of the Brazil
else now.
incident again. Speaking of which, the official title of the president is Sheikh Professor Dr. President. Let's just say he claims he has the cure for AIDS, arthritis, diabetes, and infertility. Anyway, Jammeh originally conceded his loss to Adama, but then a few days after the election results, he was like, never mind. I guess he thought the results were a shambia. Oh. Guys, this is one of my best friends and former roommates, Caleb. Say hi. There's a lot of controversy, though, because Adama has proposed a lot of policies that seem to favor the UK, whereas Jammeh was literally quoted for saying, Britain has done nothing except teach the Gambians how to sing Ba Ba Black Sheep. Well, interacting with the UK has played a huge role of importance in the country before and after independence. Let's elaborate. The Gambia,
Senegal
as
is
mentioned
best
before, is
friend.
mainland Africa's smallest country, so to
you
no
know.
surprise, they kind of have to
Yeah.
make friends
Yeah.
to get by. The Gambia plays an active role in West African and Muslim affairs, therefore has been reaching out to other nations like Libya and Mauritania. Mali, though, has a historical root and ties in with the Gambia as the Mandinka peoples have origins in the Malian kingdom. When it comes to Asia, the Gambia has jumped back and forth between recognizing either the People's Republic of China or Taiwan. For the longest time, the Gambia was the third African state recognizing Taiwan for about 18 years until Jammeh changed his mind in 2013. China didn't respond right away since they were just a little suspicious, but eventually they reopened ties in 2016. The UK is a little tricky because even though Jammeh was not a fan of the Brits still maintained strong relations. The Gambia is an incredibly popular tourist destination as it's the closest English-speaking African country to them, and business still carries very well between them. Their two best friends, though, more or less, would probably be Senegal and Sierra Leone. At one point, the Gambia was part
Wait,
of
did you
both
say
countries
Senegal?
under the British
Yeah,
colonial...
I say Senegal.
And
you
I said Sierra.
Leone.
Oh, that's about right. See how
But that's
we-
interesting because
okay.
Sierra Leone is a little bit ways away, and they're the English speaking.
Well, they ain't too far though, but you know,
Okay.
I'm just happy we got it right. You feel
Yeah.
me? Yeah.
Take what? Teamwork.
The French took over, then Senegal and Sierra Leone decided to kind of do their own thing. Nonetheless, proximity and language are what closely tie these three countries. In conclusion, the Gambia is a small, skinny country that literally surrounds the parameters of one river, but man, have they made something out of it. Stay tuned! Georgia!
So we did say that the river did describe more like a Louisiana thing with a Mississippi.
Oh yeah.
Like that big
Mississippi.
swamp feel, like that's
Yeah.
that's 100% on that.
Yeah, definitely. It was interesting learning a little bit more about the Gambia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of course, like that was one of our first real introductions to Africa.
Yeah.
Watching Roots and knowing that, you know, Kunta Kinte, his family was a part of the Mandinka tribe.
Yep.
Oh, I think that would be great for us to react to. You know, one of the last things that Kunta Kinte did in the movie was become a man, like
Right.
the rite of passage to become a man.
He became a man and he had his own hut for I guess some time before everything went crazy.
Yeah, and he actually warned his teachers about, you know, the colonizers being on the land. So
Yeah.
if there's a video out there, let us know.
Right, and then I know you guys got some beautiful tourist locations since tourist is one of the main spots for the British. I think he said.
Yeah,
I think,
the UK.
yeah, the UK. So yeah, I know. I would love to see that. We would love to see that. You know,
Yeah.
dive into that.
Everyone, I'm your host Barbie. These next two episodes are going to cover the fraternal Guinea twins, Guinea and Guinea-Bissau, separated at childhood between France and Portugal. These are like the two top least visited countries in Africa. However, that doesn't mean I'm taking you into the pits of despair. In fact, if you're a travel hipster or tripster, you might want to start looking into flights because I guarantee you will have like the whole place to yourself.
It's him saying separated a child. by
So
France.
first of all, the
That's
name.
crazy.
As you know, there are a lot of countries that have the name Guinea in them. I mean, there's Papua New Guinea, there's Guinea-Bissau, there's Equatorial Guinea. So where did the name come from? Well, scholars speculate that it probably came from the Berber word Agina, which means black, or land of the black people, referring to the people south of the Sahel region. Mystery most likely solved. Now let's go to the map animation. Guinea is located in West Africa, bordered by 6 other countries with a modestly sized coast along the Atlantic Ocean. The country is divided into 8 regions, with the capital Conakry, one of the rainiest capitals in the world, which holds about a quarter of the entire country's population. Conakry is ranked as a special region or zone located off the coast. Speaking of which, the shape of the country kind of looks like a skinny horse head dying of thirst. If you look close, Conakry is built on a narrow peninsula less than a mile or 1.6 kilometers in width at some points, and also looks like an aardvark ready to eat 2 worms and a fly. These little guys are actually an extinct volcano known as the Ile de Lo Islands, just off the coast and a short ferry ride away from the capital. They were used during the slave trade, and they held a prison on Rome Island. They're also the inspiration for Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island. Today they're kind of like the Hawaii of Guinea, with public beaches and bars all over. The largest airports are of course found in the largest cities, Conakry with Conakry International, and the second largest city, Nzerekore. Most of Guinea's borders are composed of rivers and small creeks. The only dispute they have is with the Ivory Coast over a small town called Kapeaba. Otherwise, they kind of have a Mount Roraima scenario going on, like in South America, with a tri-point border on the famous mountain Mount Nimba, located in the south. Now here's the thing, Guinea has a relatively weak transport infrastructure, or infrastructure in general. However, they did manage to build an entire railway about 660 kilometers that goes all the way from Conakry to Kankan in the interior. Otherwise, most cars are over 20 years old, and virtually anybody with a 4-door car can be a self-franchised taxi driver.
It's like an unauthorized African Uber.
Yeah, kind of is. Otherwise, top sites in the country might include places like the Conakry Grand Mosque, Cape Verga has the best beaches, of course the Ile de Lo, the Fouta Jalon Plateau with Dam Mali, a cliff that looks like a woman, the historic Hotel SIB, the markets of Nzerekore, Cape Verga has the best beaches, of course the Ile de Lo, the Fouta Jalon Plateau with Dam Mali.
Oh, yeah. I was looking at it, but now I see it. Like, really see it. Oh, Lord. That's a whole face.
It is, and the body too.
Okay. All right.
A cliff that looks like a woman, the historic Hotel SIB, the markets of Nzerekore, and the military base at Kindia. Now let's just address the elephant in the room. Yes, Guinea is kind of where the whole 2014 Ebola outbreak started. Long story short, things got a little out of hand, but in 2016, the World Health Organization terminated their concern status over the area, as most of the cases have been contained, and trial vaccines are going on right now. The whole deal pretty much ruined whatever was left of the already destitute tourism industry in the country. Guinea usually ranks in the top 10 least visited countries worldwide. This is both good and bad. Bad because there's a whole beautiful, untouched, lush domain of natural beauty just beyond the coast that will never get recognized. Good because if you come here, you will have that whole lush domain to yourself with no annoying tourists blocking your way. So you know how every West African country kind of has a name or nickname for their coasts, like the Ivory Coast, and Ghana is the Gold Coast, Liberia is the Pepper Coast? Well, get ready because we're heading out to the Aluminum Coast. First of all, Guinea is divided into 4 main landform regions: the Basse Côte, or the coastal lowlands, the Moyenne, or Middle Guinea, the Haute, or High Guinea eastern savanna areas, and the forested jungle in the far southeast. The coasts are made of mostly mangrove swamps and rivers with a few nice beaches and tidal estuaries, great for farming. The inland middle part is arguably the most beautiful, with the Fouta Highlands, also referred to as the Water Tower of Guinea. This is kind of like the source of some of the major rivers of Africa, like the Gambia, the Senegal, and the longest one in the country, the Niger River. These 3 rivers alone supply water to nearly 200 million people across 7 countries in West Africa, and it all begins here. So, yeah.
Really? I have all that much power? Is there anybody I can embargo?
Nope, all your neighbors are your friends.
Ugh, why do I gotta be so regionally diplomatic?
The Haute or High Guinea area is the driest area made up of drier but still lush savannas and grasslands, home to a lot of historic sites. And the final forest region is the lush green interior, where you don't just find jungles but some of the largest mineral mines, like the Simnadu and Nimba mines close to Nzerekore. Speaking of which, of course, like other African states, Guinea is rich in mineral resources like iron, diamonds, gold, and silver. However, they are mostly known for having the world's largest bauxite or aluminum ore reserves, topping off somewhere around 7.5 billion metric tons, or about 27% of the world's entire supply. This alone makes up about 17% of their GDP and over 50% of their exports. The highest point is shared with the Ivory Coast, Mount Richard Mollard, part of the Nimba mountain chain, a UNESCO heritage site. Tons of animals can be found throughout the country, like bongos, zebras, the adorable pygmy hippos, river hogs, ball pythons, white-necked rockfowl, and an overabundance of primates. Although it's not not official, some people might say that the Guinea baboon might be considered the national animal. Because Guinea lies right at the base of the Sahel, in the safe green belt of West Africa, Guinea is one of the rainiest places on Earth. On average, they get about 400 centimeters of rain a year. Conakry gets flooded all the time, and the people are just used to it, going about their business without even batting an eye. Otherwise, tapalapa bread is popular with futi, which is oil rice with okra. And that's about it. Time to move on. People stuffs. Man, Guinea just does not get a break. I mean, assassination attempts, coups d'etats, tribal conflict, failed socialism, a 2-year junta, mass paranoia, and general instability has caused a lot of trouble.
And Ebola.
Yeah, but that's kind of like contained now.
Too late. The damage would last forever.
First of all, the country has about 12 million people and over 40% of the country is under 15 years old. The country is divided into about 24 main ethnic groups, the largest ones being the Fulani or the Fula at about 42%, the Mandinka at about 31%, the Susu at 13%, and the remainder 17% comprised of other small groups like communities of white residents, mostly French. Also, they use the Guinean franc as their currency, they use the type C, F, and K outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road. Now, like we mentioned, Guinea kind of has 4 physical regions, however, each of these regions also kind of houses a major ethnic group. The coast is mostly home to the Susu people, known for being great carpenters and leather workers, as well as the Baga people, one of the last remaining animist tribes of West Africa who wear headdresses and perform Nimba dances. The middle region is predominantly home to the Peul or Fulani people, known for being great businessmen, and it's also the historic center of Islamic culture and learning. The High Guinea region houses most of the Mandinka population descended from the Mali kingdom, which tie in closely with other Mandinkas we already talked about in the Gambia and Burkina Faso episodes. Did we talk about them in the Benin episode? No, we didn't. Okay. No, I thought we did. No. Okay. Otherwise, the forest region is where all the rest of the tribes and ethnic groups are found. About 84% of the country is Muslim, about 11% is Christian, and the rest adheres to indigenous African beliefs. Now, when it comes to their history, let's just say Guinea kind of bit off more than they could chew. Basically, before the French came in, parts and sections of what is now Guinea were subject to the Ghana Empire, the Soso Kingdom, the Mali Empire, the Songhai, and then there was this weird time where the Moroccans came in for some reason, but they couldn't conquer them. Then multiple kingdoms were established, like the Wassalu, and then in the late 1800s, France was like, yoink, and then in 1958, Charles de Gaulle was like, okay, I'll give you colonies a choice. Do you want further autonomy with French support or immediate independence? We'll play it safe. Nope, I'm out. And that's when Guinea became the only former colony to choose full independence. And that's when 24 years of this guy happened. Portuguese came in and tried to assassinate him. He died after an operation. This guy took over. There was a coup and then a junta led by this guy. And then the first free, fair election happened in 2010 and Condé became president. And let's not even get into him.
Didn't people try to assassinate him?
Yeah, just they get it. My subscribers are smart, they can figure it out. We've gone over this many times. Guinea has a strong griot culture, or people who do storytelling and musical poetry. Typically, you can find them accompanied with koras and balafons, or the wooden African xylophones. By the way, it's believed that the very first one that was created is called the Soso Bala, and it's found in the town of Niagasola, and it's protected by the Batigi, or the patriarch of the Dokala family. It's kind of like the holy grail of Guinea. Now, French is the official language of the government and cross-cultural communication. However, most people speak their own tribal languages first. Otherwise, some notable Guinean people might include soccer player Abubakar Siddiqui Kamar, author Kamara Lay, Ahmed Scouture, Black M and MHD, and Paul Pogba. The people of Guinea are quite unique, and so is their diplomacy. Which brings us to...
All right. This has been a lot of information.
Definitely.
Very interesting. You know, like he packed that in very neatly. So
I feel like the outbreak really put him on crutches, though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like one of the top 10 locations that's not visited.
Okay. I wonder if they still have like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, people still.
Only the numbers started to rise, like where people starting to visit more now.
Okay, yeah, y'all let us know. How is the tourism industry there now?
Yeah.
Okay, so friends, I would say the surrounding.
Yeah, of course. You know, they network with their people.
Yeah,
of
the
course,
surrounding
of course.
countries.
I know they got like a lot of experts going out, like that by their water right there. So for one, he did mention France a lot. So France is probably a good business partner with them. But we gonna talk about it now.
Okay.
It's on the film. So he said. But what other locations you think?
I'd just say the surrounding country. Oh, the other French countries. Yeah.
Because he said French speaking is the main
Main language.
language.
Yeah,
Let's see.
that's my thoughts.
Guinea once again has had it pretty rough, but they've had a few others walk alongside them in the times of tribulation. First of all, they have a complicated relationship with France. I mean, yes, they opted out first with the whole independence thing, but they still work with each other, and the French make the largest group of barely existent tourists. Even President Hollande and Condé were friends in childhood. Now, Russia kept their eye on Guinea and immediately cozied up with socialist-leaning President Touré. To this day, Russians even have a mining contract with Guinea, and small businesses always going on. Then you have Guinea's English twin cousins Sierra Leone and Liberia. If you ask a Fulani, they will probably say they get along better with Sierra Leone, and Mandinkas will probably say Liberia. During war times, many Liberians and Sierra Leoneans came and fled to Guinea as refugees and still live there to this day. Now, have you ever known a kid who has had like one conversation with you and immediately calls you their best friend? Yeah, that's kind of like how Guinea is with Morocco and Ivory Coast. They love these guys and admire them. Many Guineans go abroad and study in their schools and obsess over their celebrities. However, Morocco and Ivory Coast are kind of like, oh, cool, thanks for your appreciation. But then they go off and hang out with their other friends, forgetting Guinea like a little puppy in the alley. Aw, wow. Guinea, it's okay. You's a strong, independent black nation. Y'all don't need no man. In conclusion, Guinea is kind of like the everything possibly could go wrong country, and yet it's a rare gem that has yet to be commercially exploited. So if you want to get away from all that selfie stick cattle call culture, come to Guinea. Stay tuned. Guinea-Bissau is coming up next.
All right, so you look like you got a little, it look like he took you off your seat a little bit with that one.
He did.
Didn't see it coming. I didn't see that coming. Nah, I didn't see that coming. But yeah, a lot of interesting things about him. A lot of interesting things.
Yeah. Y'all let us know what we should learn about Guinea. Mm-hmm. You know, interesting people, facts, culture, traditions. You know, let us know. I love the griots. Griots? Griots? I've never said that word correctly. You know I'm a writer. I'm not a speaker. But anyway, I've always loved them, that history, you know, just learning about them in school.
Yeah. And one of the only two nations in Africa that never got colonized.
I beg to differ.
Okay, you tried to colonize us for like 5 years, but that doesn't really count for colonization. In many ways, Liberia is incredibly unique on how it became the way it did. No other African state has their type of story, and it all begins on a little place called the Pepper Coast. Let's begin. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. Unfortunately, my first impression of Liberia came from the movie Lord of War, in which, like most Hollywood movies, portrays Liberia in a complete war-torn mess. On top of that, the whole Ebola crisis happened, which made things even worse, which is why Liberia is like the perfect place to visit right now. I have to ring the Tripster bell once again. Everybody still thinks this place has Ebola, so they try to avoid it, which means no annoying tourist crowds. The exchange rate is amazing. You could potentially have like an entire beach to yourself. People are friendly and like nobody knows about it. It's like Africa's best kept secret. Which I just ruined. Oh shoot. First of all, Liberia is located in West Africa, bordered by Guinea, the Ivory Coast, and Sierra Leone, as well as the Atlantic Ocean to the southeast. The country is divided into 15 counties, with the capital Monrovia, which by the way is named after American President.
It looks so crazy seeing that flag.
Yeah.
Because when you put a flag, I'm like, why would you put American flag there? But I gotta remember, it's not an American flag, but it's at the same time. Drew had took us to Liberia, and he showed the people there and how they was happy, and most of them was explaining how it was inspired by America, the way they kind of do the flag and everything else. So
I think we talked about the flag before. I'm not sure. And Sierra Leone story.
Well,
it's not taught in our history.
No, it's not.
History classes. It's probably taught up north, like in Maryland, and it's probably taught on a college level. But I didn't, and I'm a person. I took African American Studies classes in college. I didn't learn this. I learned this with y'all for the first time, and then that's when I started researching more and more about it. So.
Right. But yeah, let's see what he said.
James Monroe, located in the upper west coast of the country. By the way, the flags of the Liberian counties are notoriously famous for being kind of funny looking. CGP Grade does a great podcast explaining how they kind of look like they were made out of Microsoft Paint. We'll talk more about it on Flag Friday. The largest cities after the capital, Monrovia, are Banga and Kakata.
There's a place called Sasstown.
The two busiest international airports are Spriggs Payne, which is literally like downtown in Monrovia, and Roberts International in Harbel, which is the airport most people arrive in when flying to Liberia from abroad, even though it's about 25 miles or 40 kilometers away from downtown Monrovia. Otherwise, you might be better off hitching a boat ride along the coast to one of the 4 main harbors, Monrovia, Buchanan, Greenville, or Harper. Those towns sound so American. Greenville, Buchanan. Oh, these guys. Otherwise, some notable places of interest might include the strange rock formations in Sasstown, the giant footprint in Pinyan, the National Museum, Centennial Pavilion, the Sacred Heart Cathedral, the Lofa Rainforest, surfing at Roberts Spot, Sapo National Park, Mamba Point Arts District, the Bassa Eco Lodge, Kapatawi Waterfall, and Chimpanzee Island in Marshall. And
so you mean to tell me, so you mean to tell me that they're trying to tell people that they still have Ebola, not sure of how recent of a saying that is. But when you look at these pictures and you look at everything they have to offer, why would they want people to stay away? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It don't make sense.
Y'all gotta tell us about the chimpanzee because they look friendly now.
From the top.
Now the one in I think it's Rwanda where the people go and look for the gorillas. I don't know I'm a small person. I don't want them to think I'm his baby.
I seen small monkeys snatch apples and purses. I seen gorillas push people on the ground.
Exactly. And they don't come back with your purse.
You know, I don't see too much of nothing happening.
Yeah, so that's cool. Y'all let us know about that. We need
National Museum, Centennial Pavilion, the Sacred Heart Cathedral, the Lofa Rainforest, surfing at Roberts Spot, Sapo National Park, Mamba Point Arts District, Libasa Eco Lodge, Kapatawi Waterfall, and Chimpanzee Island in Marshall. And the best part is, there's like nobody crowding around these places. Hey, Ken.
Yeah?
Go on your phone, go to Skyscanner, check out flights from LAX to Monrovia. How much do flights cost?
Can you guys move on to the next segment, please? Some people want to learn stuff.
Shh. Just don't tell me how to do my job.
Oh, snap.
Good. Okay.
Oh, snap.
So anyway, Liberia was originally called the Pepper Coast by the Portuguese when they spotted the Malagueta peppers that grew there. First of all, the country is made up of 3 main physical regions: the flat coastal mangroves and swamps and valleys, the small rolling hills inland, and the tallest peaks in the North Lofa County, where you can find the tallest mountain, Mount Wuteve, in the Guinea Highlands. Nearby, the longest river, the St. Paul, comes from the Guinea border, meandering all the way to the Atlantic by Monrovia, where just a skip away you can find the largest lake, Lake Piso, a brackish water lake. Brackish water. What does that mean? Noah, explain.
All right. In the world of water bodies, a body water that contains any level between 0.05 to 3% salinity is considered brackish. In the case of Lake Piso, a small inlet, it connects the ocean, allowing salt to enter.
Awesome. Great job, Noah.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, actually, you made a mistake. The longest river isn't actually the St. Paul, it's the Kavala River that goes along the border with the Ivory Coast.
Okay, no, that's good enough. Okay, just...
Okay, how about I'll just walk out of frame?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. It rains a lot in Liberia. They have a saying in Liberia: by the rain or by the sweat, either way you will get wet. Where have I heard that before?
By the rain and by the sweat.
Right? You're gonna get wet. Basically, Liberia has 2 seasons, dry and wet. But even in the dry season, it's still incredibly humid, so you're never gonna be completely dry. Resource-wise, Liberia is kind of like a jackpot country, even though they only have 1 national park, Sapo, the 2nd largest tropical rainforest in West Africa. However, the national animal is, no shocker, the lion. Everybody wants the lion. Even the UK took the lion for some reason, and lions have never, naturally inhabited that area anyway. Speaking of animals, let's address the elephant in the room, Ebola. Ken, was that joke distasteful?
I'd say you just barely grazed past the boundary.
Good enough! Yes, during 2014, there was an outbreak of the virus with thousands that ended up dying. After months of pretty much quarantining and treating the entire nation, the outbreak was contained, and after passing a 42-day time period, the nation was declared Ebola-free in January 2016 with heightened surveillance. The whole ordeal left Liberia stigmatized and economically shunned. This was not what they needed. Nonetheless, through some smart decisions, they moved forward and continued rebuilding. Unemployment is only at about 3.5%. Exports like timber and rubber are at their highest. GDP growth has overall risen, peaking at 9.4% in 2007, and by 2011 they became one of the fastest growing 20 economies in the world. They even dramatically reduced their external debt through commercial debt relief from 4.5 billion to 222 million. That's like deleting 17/18ths of your debt. That's like Noah deleting my weight and replacing it with this messenger bag. Good for you, Liberia. Granted, they still need to do some work, blackouts are not uncommon, and infrastructure and civil engineering projects are still in progress, but for a country coming out of 2 civil wars and Ebola, not bad. Oh yeah, we usually talk about food. Food! Now, as a nickname hint, Liberians are famous for making their food spicy. They love spice. It's even said that people all over, but especially from the Kru tribe, put small bits of pepper in their kids' noses and mouths to kind of get them to build a tolerance. All right,
but it was about to be called the Pepper Coast. So I think we all can understand why it would be spicy.
They called them that because that's what they wanted there from them.
Of course, right? Everybody was there for something, for some odd reason.
But I would love to know, what was Liberia's name, original name?
Yeah.
Kingdom names. Let us know.
Just about covers that. Moving on to my favorite part, the The strongest trait for Liberia would have to be its story. It was like an experiment that actually ended up working, then kind of got glitchy, but then rebooted. First of all, the country has about 4.6 million people and is the only African state to have gained independence without major revolt. The largest of the groups in Liberia are the Kapele at about 20%, the Bassa at 14%, the Americo-Liberians come in third at around 11%, the Grebo at about 10%, and the rest are made up of most of the remaining 12 tribes plus a few other non-Africans. They use the Liberian dollar but accept US dollars. They use the A, B, C, and F outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road, and they are one of the only 3 countries in the world that uses imperial units instead of metric, just like the US and Myanmar.
Yeah, it's just us 3 against the world. We're in this together, guys.
Woo! Even though recently they've considered transitioning into the metric system.
Oh, no, you don't. Get back on over here.
In Liberia, the official language is English, but only about a fifth of the country speaks it properly. It's more common to hear Liberian colloqua, which is like a mashed up Creole-ish type of language that incorporates words from various tribal languages. For example, pem-pem, bigidi, chop, noko, and one of my favorites, swimara. It's been said that a standard American English speaker can listen really hard and maybe pick it up in about 2 weeks. Well, and they always track extra sounds like o or ya on words. Right-o, not bad-o. Ya, hello. It's kind of like Singlish with lo or la. Man,
It's like Pidgin.
Yeah.
I feel like the Creole languages in Pidgin is kind of just sound similar.
Yeah.
Like we use the same linguistics, you know?
Yeah, I would like to see what languages they teach in classes, though, like for their schools.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, other than English, since only 25% speaks it.
Oh, like do
You
they
know what I'm
teach their
saying?
native languages?
Big facts, yeah.
Okay.
Liberia, you guys have a lot in common with Singapore. Like, have you ever met Singapore? Like, here, talk amongst yourselves. Like, yeah, hey, say hi to each other. As mentioned, Liberia has 16 main tribes. Each speak their own language and dialect, specializing in their own unique customs and trades. For example, the Kisi tribe is famous for being rice farmers. The Dey are known for being salt traders and carving wood masks. The Bassa are like the people of the forest, and they're good at hunting. The Kapele are the largest tribe, and they were the tribe that historically became slaves to the other tribes, so there's kind of like that stigma that they don't like having. The Vai are the people from the Mali kingdom that actually created their own script, making it one of the few indigenous African writing systems. The Kru are masters of sailing and fishing. Many work for the Coast Guard. The Mandingo and Gio and Mano tribes are like the Muslim tribes. And the Grebo are great fishermen. Now here's the interesting part. One thing that makes Liberia stand out from the rest of Africa was that the nation, at least in modern times, was resettled by freed slaves that were initially brought from the US and Caribbean in the mid-1800s by the American Colonization Society. Okay, get ready because I'm about to go into story mode. Basically, if you were a freed slave in the US in the mid-1800s, you had 2 choices. Stay as a disenfranchised individual and hope that over time society would get better for you, or you could take your chances and sail to Africa and create your own society run by you and other freed slaves funded by the US government. In 1822, the first ship set sail, and over 4 decades, over 13,000 freed slaves were returned back to Africa, and an entirely new people group, the Americo-Liberians, were formed, some of whom were mixed-race children of slave owners that had privileged upbringings and educations. It was strange, though, because essentially these new African-American colonialists were returning back to the continent of their ancestors, which was completely foreign to them. They didn't initially get along with the indigenous people groups, and for a while clashes and fights broke out. Eventually the Americo-Liberians took power as the elite. They built their own infrastructure and government based off of the US system of legislation. They tried to build schools and churches to help integrate the natives, and after decades they finally gave birthright citizenship to the tribes. So in a sense, historically, there's always kind of been like this rift between the natives and the colonialists. Tensions have...
Rightfully so.
So now you guys understand the reason the flag looks the way it looks.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he touched on this. I'm really happy that he was able to bring this into his video and talk about it.
Yeah, and
that
we
was
have
important.
a video coming up very soon.
Yeah.
I know we have a new series on our family channel. We're sharing black food, black history, black culture on the family channel. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Okay, it's a rift, but rightfully so. Imagine, in this land, being oppressed, being a slave here. And then you leave and you go to another land and you're basically the colonizers of this new land, after you had already lived this life. So imagine the perspective of the natives there.
Yeah, and you got years of this happening to them, and then they bring in that trauma there. So that mindset of how they move, and that's why he's talking about the stigma of them enslaving themselves.
Yeah.
It's kind of...
Yeah, but we're going to talk about it more. We're going to talk about it more.
Actually led to the first and subsequent second civil wars in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, caused by natives backlashing against the Americo-Liberian elite. Eventually, peace deals were signed, the most free and fair elections took place. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, a Harvard-trained economist, won the presidency and became the first female president in all of Africa, and then George Weah was voted in to follow after her. The majority of Liberians, around 85.5%, identify as Christians, mostly Protestant, although indigenous belief systems are also practiced and sometimes synchronized, whereas about 12% are Muslim. Oh, and one more thing, from what I've been told, in Liberia, everyone likes to bluff, flaunting expensive clothes and accessories. They all have like the newest cell phones, even if they live in shanty houses. They even have a word for it, cheeky. Hey, but you know, we're all kind of guilty of trying to show off for making an impression to people. Last of all, a few famous people from Liberia, or of Liberian descent, might include people like Martin Delaney, Chris Bondi, India Ari, Saren Kaba-Jones, Tamba Hali, maybe Oprah Winfrey, Kat Graham, and Louis Gossett Jr. A lot of those people, though, are like Americans of Liberian descent, but...
India Ari? Were you aware of that?
No, I never knew that one.
India Ari. Huh. Okay. I remember hearing some India Ari once upon a time in this house. And I was like, okay.
Yes, that's one of my girls. Y'all know I'm still stuck in the 90s, baby.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, she's one of my girls. I never knew that, though.
No, that's good information.
Yeah, I guess it still kind of counts. Speaking of America and relations with them... Liberia is kind of like that kid playing on the swings that you walked up to on the playground because you want...
All right. Who are their best friends?
Well, I'm going to throw Singapore out there because he mentioned Singapore, so... You know what I'm saying? But being connected to Atlantic...
I don't know. I don't know about Singapore.
No? Well, being connected to Atlantic and the relationship between the U.S., I would think the U.S. Hands down.
I say Sierra Leone because it has like
very close.
A similar history.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
To say hi, but then the moment you got 2 feet away from them, they fall off and break their arms screaming in pain, so you're like, oh, shoot, hi? Are you okay? First of all, within Africa, Namibia showed huge appreciation for Liberia's support for their liberation efforts and offering Liberian passports to help students study abroad. The Namibian Defense Force also stops by and stations themselves occasionally in Liberia. Sierra Leone and Guinea were like the really close cousins that suddenly got really mad because that one thing that happened in the 80s that they never really forgot. And by that I mean President Charles Taylor. Although issues have settled, they still kind of remember it and hold it against them a little bit. India really started to love Liberia after they gave their full-fledged support for India's stance on the Kashmir dispute. In return, President Sirleaf was invited to India. They struck up multiple export and investment deals in things like engineering equipment, pharmaceuticals, and steel and plastics, which increased India's investments in Liberia by 4 times. When it comes to their best friends, though, Liberians always kind of go back to their 1800 roots and say the USA. Sometimes they even call themselves Little America, and the statement, "We will become America's 51st state," has even been a slogan in some presidential campaigns. Many of their former presidents were even born in the U.S. Even though tensions were built up in the 80s and 90s, the U.S. is still the largest provider of investment and foreign aid, and they still take cultural and diplomatic cues from their stepdad. Overall, the two have a weird but somewhat functional relationship. In conclusion, nowhere else in the world do you find an African nation colonized by African Americans. It's just only in Liberia. Interesting, eh? Stay tuned. Libya is coming.
No matter how much you try to make a joke out of that, it don't.
It's a story. I feel like everybody should. I mean, he does give great information, but always go back and do your research as well. And you can find out so much more because I feel like he grades across the stuff. And plus, people reach out to him and tell him what they find interesting about their country. You know what I'm saying? So they give him information to go off of.
Yeah, he did a good overview, and you know, he's an entertainer, edutainment.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just me thinking my ancestors, your ancestors were former enslaved people. Imagine if one of our ancestors went to another land and colonized it. It's just, you know, it's that. And also, there are still descendants of the Americo-Liberians, you know. And I know it's just a sensitive topic when you talk about African-American trauma overall. And I'm just putting myself in the perspective of a native. Like, it's... I don't know the present stance on the rift, you know, but I know that they have to coexist now, you know. So it's I, as the person that I am, I can't joke about it because I don't play about our history.
Yeah, I feel the same. Yeah,
so we're going to be touching more about Liberia on the channel because a lot of people don't know about it. We just learned about it, last year, year before? So we just learned about it, and so now we're doing more research to educate ourselves.
There's one country that holds all the deepest ancient secrets and treasures of historical Africa. You might say Egypt, Ethiopia, which, okay, yeah, those are viable candidates. But try a country with the richest guy that ever existed, with cities flourishing in science, astronomy, and literature, and gold. Looks like good old Jolly Molly just stepped in the ring.
Okay.
I really forgot he was
It's
from
time to learn geography now!
Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbs. Today, Mali may look pretty different from what it used to look thousands of years ago, but there's still a fascinating story of people that have made this fast-growing nation their home. Let's jump back into the sands of Africa, shall we? The name Mali originally is derived from the Mandika word for hippopotamus, but later it came to mean the place where the king lives. Either way, there's like a connotation of strength behind it. First of all, Mali is landlocked, located in Western Africa, bordered by 8 other countries, straddling the prime meridian near the city of Goa, which means if you visit, you can stand in 2 different hemispheres at once. They also have no specific singular northernmost or easternmost points, as the borders are straight lines. The country is made up of 10 regions, and the capital Bamako, which administers itself as its own district entity. Mali is kind of split into 2 separate parts, the fertile sub-Saharan southwest, where about 90% of the population lives, and the arid Saharan northeast, which makes up about 65% of the country's landmass. The north is where the tension started between the communities, mostly ethnic Tuaregs, against the central Malian government, vying for secession into a whole new self-proclaimed independent area they call Azawad, led by the MNLA, or National Movement for the Liberation of Azawad. In 2012, fights broke out, and shortly the Malian government came in and regained control. The president visited the headquarters in Kidal to seek talks. However, today the push for autonomy and nationalism still kind of lives on. It's a tricky situation. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Most travel agencies give at least some advisories against visiting these regions for now, due to the somewhat unstable political atmosphere.
But I wanted to see Timbuktu.
You can, just use your best discretion and be smart, that's all. After the capital, Bamako, the largest cities are Sisako and Mopti, and the country only has one main international airport, Bamako's Sanu International. Technically, Gao also has an international airport, but it only services the Dutch Air Force and UN peacekeeping mission flights. Other regional airports like Timbuktu and Mopti are around, but with either suspended or limited service, which is sad because Timbuktu is like such a historic place of significance. We'll get into that later. Now, the country has a vast domain that extends all the way to the middle of the Sahara. However, there is only one trans-Saharan roadway that crosses into Algeria at the border of El Khali, which Algeria put a double wall barricade around on their side.
wow.
Otherwise, the Timbuktu region has no highway that extends to the north, and virtually no people live there. However, some intrepid nomads and even tourists either take a car ride or camel caravan to what might be considered the most remote, isolated outpost in the world, Taoudeni, the famous historic salt mine that people have been excavating from for centuries. Now, we'll explain a little more later in the video on how Mali is very historically significant, not just in Africa, but in the entire world. And today you can see former remnants of its glory in certain areas. Some places of interest might include places like the National Museum in Bamako, the City Center Market, the Artisan Market, the Independence Monument, the Rose Dune, the Dandan Waterfalls, Fort de Medine, Bamako Grand Mosque, the National Zoo, pretty much anything in the fabled city of Timbuktu, the pottery venues of Ségou, cliff villages of Bandigara, the Emperor Askia tomb, and the entire country is famous for having multiple traditional style mud brick mosques and buildings. However, the one that most people know about would probably be the most iconic landmark of the country, the Great Mosque of Djenné. It is the largest mud brick building in the world, made in its complete form in 1907, refurbished every year after weather damage, and it's featured on the coat of arms, which we will discuss on Flag Friday. Stay tuned. Otherwise, the real powerhouse of Mali, though, would have to be the one amazing life source almost the entire population depends on, the Niger River. Which brings us to... Every so often we get those countries that has like a lot of land, but almost the entire population is crammed into one small, comfortable urban area that few venture outside of.
Wait till you get to my country's episode.
Oh, whoa, you again.
Hi. Yeah, what's up?
What was your name again?
John.
How'd you get on the show?
I've been on the past few episodes.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the team. First of all, Mali lies on what is known as the West African Craton, which is like some kind of geological plate zone that people who study rocks are probably interested in.
Alright, just from looking at it, they're closer to the water. So I would know for a fact moving down there is be more beneficial than being all the way in the center of the land,
dry
areas and
hot.
I don't think they would like that.
Yeah, because think about where we live.
Yeah.
Where we were born, it's by the water.
Yeah.
Our people want to be by the water. Okay, we not with the cold. We not with the dry.
Little tropic areas and nice breeze and stuff. A little rain here and there.
Water brown, but that's okay.
And they probably be able to get a little. And they probably be able to get a lot of exported things to them.
Yeah, because
that
they're
way.
closer.
Yeah, they're mad closer. So
The country is divided into three main physical regions: the hot, dry Saharan desert in the north, the semi-arid Sahel savanna zone in the middle, and the tropical savanna and light forest zone in the far south. The tallest peak, Hombori Tondo, can be found in the east-central Mopti region, and just to skip away, you find this interestingly spearhead-shaped crevice-looking thing. That is Lake, quote-unquote, Lake Fagibin, which is supposed to be the largest lake in the country, acting as like a reservoir when the rivers overflood, but today it's almost completely dried up and reduced to nothing more than a semi-arid lake bed. Instead, most of the overflow is diverted to these little guys under it, Lakes Tele, Oro, and Fati. Nonetheless, the largest permanent lake would be Lake Manatali in the south, an artificial lake created by the Manatali Dam. Nonetheless, with water, there's only one guy that everybody is paying attention to, the Niger River. The entire Malian economy is almost confined to this riverine area as it traverses 5 of the regions, including Timbuktu and Gao in the north. It passes through the capital Bamako as well as every major city of commercial significance. Otherwise, further to the west lie the branches of the Senegal River, which completes the backbone of the country. And it's also here in this area you can probably find the national animal, the leopard. The rainy season in the south sometimes causes the Niger River to flood, creating the Niger River Delta, a vast network of seasonal wetlands, much like the Okavango Delta we studied in the Botswana episode.
Seasonal river delta flooding. It's like Mother Nature moisturizing her skin after a rash.
Ooh, all right, triple shot of espresso break. You know what time it is? Noah, you know the deal. Take over.
I got it. Despite the presence of water, only about 10% of the land is forested and only about 6% is arable. Even though about 70% of the workforce is engaged in agriculture, making about 42% of the GDP. Nonetheless, crops are not the country's largest product, but rather gold and cotton, which make up about 80% of export earnings alone. Mali is Africa's 3rd largest gold producer, and the most profitable mines are found in the southeast Bambouk Mountains.
So I was going to talk about the agriculture, but they made it up with the cotton and the gold, and yeah.
Everybody loves gold.
And cotton.
And
Everybody needs cotton.
Definitely, 100%. Yeah.
Speaking of resources, food. In Mali, there are a lot of different regional cuisines that different people groups are known for. But some nationwide known dishes might include things like Malian-style jollof rice, jablani juice, meat, and peanut
Mali
sauce.
got jollof rice.
Tuareg-style alabaja, bakoye, saga, Malian tea, and poulet yassa. Yeah, poulet as in the French word for chicken, which tells you a little bit of the backstory for these people. Let's discuss more in...
Once again, that was Noah. Thank you a lot, man. Follow him on Instagram. Send him fan mail. Mali is interesting because it's a nation that struggles, yes, but they do it in like the most colorful, unique, exuberant, flashy way. And every region has their own type of flashiness. First of all, the country has about 18 million people.
Okay, before we go on, I made a comment, French territory. I don't mean now. I mean then. Because I know some people going to be like, no, we're not.
Oh, the correct crowd.
Yeah,
people that come through and make sure we get their facts straight.
Right.
Y'all good. I see what y'all be doing.
But their flag kind of looks like France flag as well.
Mm-hmm.
And has the 3rd highest birth rate in the world, expected to double in population by 2035. The population is pretty diverse, made up of several ethnic groups. About half of the population falls under the broader Mande group. About 16% fall under the various Fula or Fulani peoples. 13% under the Voltaic groups, and 10%, mostly in the north, are Tuareg and Moorish peoples, and the rest are made up of other people groups with a sizable Songhai minority. They use the West African CFA franc as their currency, they use the type C and E plug outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road. Of course, as a former French territory, French was taught and today is the official language. All people groups use it to intercommunicate amongst themselves. However, there are also 13 recognized national languages. Now back to the
The flag does symbolize the same as French, it's just a color change.
Yeah,
that's about it. But it looks, everything's the same.
Yeah.
Really, except for the
So
colors.
I don't believe that he's going to get to the flag in here because he does a separate video.
Yeah, Flag
So let
Fridays.
us know the different symbolisms of the flag. We would love to know.
Big facts.
City thing. In previous episodes we did, like Burkina Faso and Gambia, we mentioned the Mande peoples, which make up the largest group in Mali. They are descended from the peoples that would eventually create and maintain the 3 most famous empires of West Africa, the Ghana, Mali, and Songhai.
Woohoo! Yeah, Ghana!
Actually, the Ghana Empire was nowhere near modern-day Ghana and had nothing to do with them.
Ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine.
Waited for this all day.
Historically, Mali played a huge role in the trans-Saharan trade routes between the Sahelian kingdoms of North Africa. Timbuktu and Djenné were centers of learning, science, astronomy, and literature in the 14th century. Mansa Musa was disputably one of, if not the most rich man that ever possibly existed. And it wasn't...
Y'all, there's a restaurant in Atlanta. I was watching a vlog. There's a restaurant that is named in his honor. And all of... Just go check it out on YouTube, or if you're going to be traveling to Atlanta soon. I don't know the name, sorry. So just Google Mansa Musa restaurant
yeah.
in Atlanta. But it's really dope.
European sea trade and subsequent famines and invasions by the Moroccans that these empires started to decline. Also, we talked about the Fula and Fulani peoples before. They're spread throughout all of West Africa. About a third of the entire population are pastoralists, making them the world's largest nomadic peoples on the planet, and about 2.5 million live in Mali, which makes the country about 5 to 10% nomadic.
Aren't they like the people that play the Hodu guitar thing?
Yep.
That is like so dope.
They are known for their women's hairstyles, woven hats, and colorful loose accessories and clothing. Then you have the southern groups like the Voltaic, Sanufo, and Bois peoples.
Are those the people that play the balafone? That thing looks like a
Oh, I love to hear
xylophone.
him do
You
that.
know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So dope.
As well as the famous Dogon peoples that have the world's longest religious ceremony, the Sigi festival that happens once every 60 years, and the event in itself can last years. They also have the Lake Antogo fish frenzy at the sacred lake once a year. Men jump.
What are we doing for it to last years?
Celebrating it just over
Every day?
and over again. Non-stop. I guess they have different ways. I'm pretty sure a lot of eating, dancing.
Yeah, we
things
all
of that
love
nature.
food, huh?
But for a
Yeah.
year, it's a long time.
They say years. Years. So tell us more about that. I'm gonna rewind. Well, no,
Jump in and catch as many fish as they can. The Sigi festival that happens once every 60 years, and the event in itself can last years. They also have the Lake Antogo fish frenzy at the sacred lake once a year. Men jump in and catch as many fish as they can. Then we reach the northern peoples, mostly Tuareg, a people group related to the Berbers in northern Africa. They inhabit the vast Saharan landscape. These people have millennia of pre-Islamic history and traditions rooted in desert-adapted tribes and customs found nowhere else on Earth.
Dude, are they the people that play the Imazad instrument thing?
Wow, Keith, you're really on an instrument quest today.
What can I say? It's like so dope, man. You know, guitars, instruments.
Whew, there's a lot of other main people groups and tribes that we could have discussed, but these are the biggest, most notable ones that probably hold the largest influence over the country. Otherwise, faith-wise, Mali is quite unique. There's a saying, Mali is 98% Muslim, 2% Christian, and 100% animist. Much like we studied in the recent Eswatini episode, the majority of Mali's population in the south somewhat adheres to a form of religious pluralism, in this case with Islam. Many claim to be Muslim, mostly in the Sufi order, but syncretize traditional animist practices as to retain connections to their pre-Islamic roots. This, of course, does not fly too well with the Sunni Tuaregs and other people groups in the north, which has been one of the leading factors in domestic conflict. I asked some of you guys, the Muslim geographers, to explain the difference between Sunni and Sufi Islam, and here are what I would say may be some of the most helpful responses I got for clarity. Mainstream Sunnis are from a main branch that focuses more on doctrine and the world affairs happening right now, whereas Sufism is usually from the Malikite branch that teaches a more mystical branch of Islam that focuses on the world after. It follows a direct approach to experience God through things like meditation, prayer, and sometimes even dance and music, depending on the region. One Saudi geography told me that in the broadest stereotypical sense, Sufism is sometimes in certain places kind of seen as like hippie Islam. I don't know, what do you guys think? Would that be kind of like an accurate description? Anyway, for what it's worth, most southern Malian Muslims follow Sufism, whereas northern Malians have a more strict rebel-controlled Sharia-implemented society that does not agree with the more moderate approach to their southern countrymen. And that in itself is a whole other story, which kind of means this is the time where we transition into the history montage section. We don't have a lot of time to explain, but in the quickest way I can put it, tribes and people groups inhabit the upper Niger River basin, the Empire of Mali becomes a dominant force, Mansa Musa makes his huge pilgrimage to Mecca, the decline of the Malian Empire, Moroccans defeat the Songhai, Timbuktu becomes the capital, huge famine in the 1800s, French occupation, it becomes French Sudan, independence, this guy becomes president, March Revolution, political system changes, Northern Mali conflict in 2012, things look good for a short while, but then another attack happens 3 years later, UN peacekeeping forces continue to send aid, the country slowly tries to accommodate the rapid population growth, and here we are today. Some notable people of Malian descent or born in Mali might include people like, of course, Mansa Musa, Ali Farka Toure, Oxmo Puccino, Salif Keita, Vieux Farka Toure, Ngoni Ba, Amadou Hampate Ba, Malik Sidibe, Sheikh Umar Sissoko, Rokia Traore, and Omu Sangare. Alright, that being said, we have to move on. Let's discuss Mali's diplomacy now, shall we? For Mali, friends are interesting because historically they've already been linked to so many people across Africa, but modern politics and mainstream culture has also played a strong role as well. For one, outside of Africa, France is probably the closest friend. As a former colony, France holds close ties. French people make up the largest tourist group, even after the northern conflict, which was also partially aided by their military. During the Cold War, Mali somewhat kind of allied with Russia, however, it wasn't really that strong. Nonetheless, today Russia and their former Soviet Republic Armenia both have remnant ties, and there's even an embassy for both Russia and Mali in each other's countries. Inside of Africa, it's a little tricky because it depends on who you ask. Culturally, the people of the south identify closer with their neighbors and probably consider countries like Burkina Faso, the Ivory Coast, and Guinea as their best friends, whereas the northern peoples identify closer with Mauritania, Algeria, and Niger. Each one also having high populations of the same ethnic groups like the Tuareg and Berber. With that being said, with Algeria, it's a little tricky. There was a hostage situation in the Algerian consulate in 2012, and since then, the Algerian Prime Minister has planned to work alongside the MNLA, which means South Mali has a little issue with them. In conclusion, Mali is a nation with thousands of years telling a story built off of sand, mud, rivers, and gold. And today, even amidst the conflict, they know where they've come from and they keep their story alive. Stay tuned, Malta is coming up next.
All right.
Awesome.
I wonder how this story goes from the passing of Mansa Musa to their success of how they're operating today. Is there still a collaboration with that at all, you think? Like from the resources or from the families? Things of that nature. I would like to know that.
Yes, I would love to know like about his descendants and where they are now as well. So let us know. Send in some links so we can dig more into that. All right. We hope you guys enjoyed this video with us. Like this video, subscribe, turn on the post notification bell. We have enabled our super thanks if you like to support the channel that way, as well as our reaction request form is in our description box below. We'll see you soon.
Peace.